got my attention.
I'm going to call this meeting to order at 5:01. Could you take the roll call, please?
Dr. Atasi, Amy Burney. Here. Hal Christensen.
Here.
Marcia Cox.
Here.
Pat Rooney.
Here.
Julie Sassine.
You have quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Could we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A moment of silence.
Amen.
Amen. Item 1.3, call for executive session. Do we have any items that we need to?
Yeah, Madam Chair, there is one item that involving the contract for PBM services,
Okay.
and I described in the transmittal memo what the item is about. We're recommending renewal of the contract with Caremark. There is a legal issue with that. I think a brief executive session would be in order.
Okay. And for our public PBM is?
Prescription benefit management contract.
Okay. So I think at this time we just need a motion to go into executive session.
I make a motion, we go in. Oh, I don't think I can I?
I think that would be.
Okay, well, that solves that problem.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Aye.
Can we do a unanimous aye?
Yeah, I think.
All those in favor?
Aye.
If you just said all opposed, that would do it.
All opposed?
Can we get in there? Or do you want
Do
Yeah, can
we have
do it?
permission?
Let me just make sure.
Okay. For lights also, I'm not quite sure. That's probably the easiest way, if that's okay with you, and then we'll just, we don't have a lot of people here, but I think we can just do that fairly easily. And do we have instructions on how to use that conference phone yet?
I was going
Can
to
you
use my
just call?
speaker, but if
Okay.
I let Mike know, because he's on hold.
Okay. And so we need to take the prescription contract with us to review, or you just
I
gonna
don't-
take notes?
I don't think so,
Okay.
Madam Chair, because we're going to discuss the issue. It's fairly quick, and it's not immediately going to be voted on tonight, but it's one I just want you to contemplate going
Good.
forward.
Because that's the one that's like 200 pages.
Yeah, it's 100 and something pages long.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to.
Do I go? Do I go?
So we are back in regular session at 5:22. So, let's see. I believe we are at call to the public. Do we have any requests for call to the public? I don't see any. So next item is 3.1, old business discussion and possible action regarding void contracts. Mr. Collins?
Madam Chair, so you'll recall from prior meetings that there are 6 contracts remaining that have to be updated. Essentially, these contracts were found to be void because they were not approved in an open meeting. So tonight I have 4 of them that are ready for signature, and that's why you've got that probably 200 pages of backup. So I'd like to do is walk through the list, give you what we've done with each of them. Staff recommendation is to approve all of them. If you accept that recommendation, Storm has a massive number of documents here that have little red flags that say sign here, so before people leave, if you would hang back the ones who have to do the signature, which I think is Hal and Marcia, I think, is that right?
Yes.
I made that change. Thanks, Hal.
Yeah.
So, and
I didn't want to be the only one signing those things.
well, Hal is a banker. This is actually good that a banker gets tormented back for all the people that have been tormented on loan documents.
That's not why I did it.
So, okay, so the first one is American Health Group. American Health Group is the pre-certification utilization review and case management firm. In here, you'll note that we moved this contract back onto the same format as ECA, as Chiron is on, as Mike Hensley is on. And what that does is it includes all the indemnification issues where there's mutual indemnification. It includes the venue, which is in Phoenix, where your council is. Essentially what it does, it moves the contract back onto your form. It also includes, importantly, and I think this one we always want to point out to you, it improves language that prohibits them from taking any revenue other than the fee and the hourly rates that are in there. So literally every dime has to be disclosed. It also has non-collusion provisions where in there. It has standard cancellation provisions under state law. None of those were included in the former contracts.
Right.
So what we're doing is we're getting them, if you go back to the end-to-end review, you're getting all the contracts onto a format that complies with the statute, but also basically puts them in the favor of the trust to protect you guys as fiduciaries, without also being abusive, if you will, to the vendor. Basically what it's saying is, look, you've negotiated a fee, everybody's got to make a living, but whatever we're paying, that's all we're paying. There's nothing else going out to the back. So, then we have a very detailed scope of services for American Health Group in here.
Right.
So, again, I'd be happy to answer any questions on that one. If you'd like, Madam Chair, I'll walk through the differences
Please,
between them.
yeah.
Okay. GDK Mike Bonney's contract is in here. His basically ran out. We've had some conversations with Mike in the past where we may eventually get rid of that service once we get the rest of the books cleaned up and make a move over to complete a full accrual accounting. Okay, our process is accrual based, so they will become duplicative at some point.
And we made that, I believe we made that recommendation at one of the prior meetings, didn't we, to go to accrual?
Correct. Yeah, and that's a GASB requirement.
Right.
So, third one, Wisconsin RX. This will take a little bit more detail. This contract came up. It's a 3-year contract, and it's on a calendar year basis. ECA has previously recommended that the trust go out to bid for this. This is the second largest area of expenditures on the trust, just behind medical claims. So this, and PBM stands for Prescription Benefit Management. So we went to them because this is on a calendar year. When we started the conversation, we asked for two things. One was, can we realign the contract so it's on a fiscal year basis, which is how the plan works, the plan year and the fiscal year. Secondly, we asked if we could get just an extension, basically a 6 or an 18-month extension. They declined in both cases, and I stressed to you that it was not an argumentative situation. In essence, they have a national contract, and they don't want to come off of that for any particular individual. They have a contract, that's the contract. The dilemma this puts us in is that this is, again, we wanted to take this to bid, and you'll notice in the items that I included under 3B here that there were 3 elements of penalty in the contract. One is that if it was to switch midterm, whatever rebates had not been paid for the most recent quarter would be lost. That's standard. They had a $5 per participant one-time fee, which they elected to waive. But the third one is, and it's not an issue for tonight, but if we bid it, it will become an issue, is that there's language in there that says that they retain the right, in addition to those 2 penalties, for any other additional recoveries or any other remedy available in law or equity. So there's a wild card out there. So what staff recommendation is to renew it. And our reason for that is twofold. One, we believe this should be done through a competitive process for fiduciaries, but also for appearances. We've had a lot of change in the trust. We don't believe it would be wise to do it without a competitive process. And secondly, anytime you change a PBM, there's disruption, there's member disruption. And typically where that occurs is each of the PBMs has formularies of their own. There's always variations, and there's always variations how drugs are placed on particular tiers. Again, going back to, we've had a lot of change, we got a lot of change coming in the next 12 months. We thought it would be particularly disruptive for members, and that would be worth not having. Okay. And the last, the easiest of the 4 is the Blue Cross contract. That one, what we did is had them take the existing agreements that were kind of scattered because there's been amendments to it, put all the amendments into the text of the document, so we didn't have C exhibit, 12 different exhibits. And then, so we got one unified contract, we verified it is what was in effect. On this one, the only thing that's different is we're going to ask you to approve it retroactive to July, because it was signed by Carrie.
Right.
We're unclear if it was signed at a meeting, so just to be safe, we'll do this one July 1st and just retroactively approve Carrie's signature. The last two that are outstanding is Emeritus for Dental. We gave them some very minor changes, but they're all confirmed, so that's with their attorney. And then Gilsbar, and we have given Gilsbar the same core document that we have for AHG. We sent it to them with an outline scope of services they're reviewing with council. So our expectation will have that one, those two should be done by the next meeting of the trust. So with that, Madam Chair, my recommendation is that American Health Group, Mike Bonney, Blue Cross Wisconsin RX be approved as presented, but I'd also, and that just the other two just be tabled, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the trustees have.
The one with that Carrie had signed back in July. You know, when,
I remember that.
so how can you? She was the chair at that time.
Correct.
So how do we do that retroactively?
All you literally say is we retroactively approve Carrie's signature and renew the Blue Cross contract.
With today's date.
Correct. As
Okay.
of, yeah, well, it'll be effective July 1, but the action is
Right,
taken
but
today.
okay. And the
And
other,
we do have that documented. We have video of that, and
Okay.
I mean, we have that in the archive on the video.
And the only change in there, Madam Chair, Hal, is that her signature is there. We've now got a clean contract behind it.
Sure.
What she signed was a one-page renewal.
okay.
Right, but it renewed a contract that was scattered, so we're doing essentially approving that over the body of the reconstituted agreement.
Okay, and then Mike Bonney with GDK. So does ECA prepare compilations also? Is that going to happen in the future?
Madam Chair, Hal, what Mike does is a financial statement.
Right.
Okay, we do financials that are done on an accrual basis that are more detailed. I mean, they're actually they're in the line item format.
Okay.
Those would then be compiled into the financial one time a year instead of monthly. Okay, and typically where that would happen is they would be incorporated into the audit of the trust.
Okay, because for what we're paying, the $300 a month, but you know, being able to see, even though we're going to be meeting quarterly, sometimes you know, even quarterly statements are better than annual statements, just to keep transparent, just to keep it out there in the open. And if staff had to do it within the school district, you factor in time for the staff. Well, then the $300 paid independently, you're really not paying anything because the staff would have to be paid for that also. So I'm just wondering if we shouldn't continue with Mike as a normal course of business.
I would tell you, Madam Chair, that's a comfort level item. And if it is, I agree with you. $300, Hal.
Yeah, in the big scheme of things, and I think it's, you know, having those, you know, on monthly is fine, but if we're going to be quarterly, at least have them on a quarterly basis. I know the fee would adjust somewhat, but.
Well, and I think honestly, the reason why up until this point we were having a monthly was because we had such a, we had so much detail that we had to manage because of the costs related to the clinic, and we're not going to have that anymore.
Right.
And quarterly, I think, I was hoping that we were going to get to quarterly anyway. I like the idea of having that quarterly
Being able to see it prepared independently.
as well.
Yeah, I do too.
Cool.
So I think that's.
Storm
a
is
good idea.
dutifully making that note.
Okay, thank you.
And I know that there was also, and I know we have President Masden here too, and I might touch on him or Mr. Murray. I know that there was a rule that was mentioned at the most recent work session regarding audits. I don't know that it will necessarily pertain to audits that we would do, but I know with the school district, there's a requirement that there are audits that are done that you can't use one. And Mr. Murray, did you remember that? That's correct. You can't use the same auditor 3 years in a row or within, can you?
Correct. You can, as currently it's shown in statute, which there's a lot of talk that might change, but as it's currently presented and adopted, you cannot procure the same audit company or audit service after or for more than 3 years. So we can enter into a 3-year contract with an audit company or audit service. But then the
Heinz
following
Beach,
time,
or-
year 4, we'd actually have to switch and go with someone else.
Okay.
And the concern in the state is there's not many audit services or big companies that perform such large-scale audits to handle all of the districts within the state of Arizona. So where that goes in the years to come, it's kind of, we'll have to wait and see. But that is true. So right now, as currently written, we can procure an audit service for 3 years, and then we would have to switch out on the following RFP.
So
We
then the
could not procure them again for an additional 3 years.
So then the question that I would have would be, do we have to follow the same guideline for the EBT?
Well, the EBT has been traditionally audited through the district's audit process. We had 1 year where we did a separate audit, which really had no new substantial findings. It was basically just an extra carve out and almost a duplication of effort. If you wanted to procure an annual audit of the EBT, which was separate from what the district does, you would have to follow the same rule, would be my interpretation.
Could you check on that, Aaron, and make sure, because I know my impression of an audit, I'm thinking medical audit, fiscal, as far as, dollars for.
Well, this is a financial audit.
Correct.
Right, I understand that. But, and I think, I'm thinking along the same lines, but I just want to make sure that we're not talking about, because we've been doing an audit through the first year of this whole process. And
Well,
we're in October, I just realized. Congratulations, happy anniversary, guys. It's been a whole year since you guys have been tackling this thing.
Madam Chair,
Plus 2
the
days.
other thing to bear in mind is that with the change in state law, it's also codified in district policy. And so you're not just dealing with, can I legally do it, you're also dealing with the policy change for the district.
Because I didn't see anything in the statute that identified the trust in there. I assumed that it went along for the ride, so to speak. So I just wanted to make sure.
I'll double check
We
that
have to
section.
clarify that. Because the EBT, while it has an independent role and function, it's still dependent also
think
upon
it-
the district.
Yeah, I do think it has to, I
Yeah,
think it's,
there's a fine line there, so we'd
yeah,
have to.
I think
get
it's
some
connected, but I
clarification.
just want to make sure. But I think I'm on the same page with you are on, what do you, I mean, for me, it's sort of a comfort level, having that quarterly local audit.
We have that noted,
accounting
Madam
thing.
Chair. So if you decide to, on any of these, if you decide to approve them, Madam Chair, whoever makes the motion, could you contemplate in the motion authorizing the chair to execute all of the agreements?
Execute all of these. And then, okay, we will contemplate that. One of the items that we're talking about on the Wisconsin, I just want to clarify for our audience that, because you used the term disruption, and we have two different definitions. We have the disruption of the tiers, meaning that amoxicillin could be in tier 1 on a particular vendor, and it could be in tier 2 in a vendor 2, meaning that it's disrupted that way. But we also have members disruption, meaning we're changing something again. So
Both are correct, Madam Chair.
okay, all right, and we certainly don't want to add any more member disruption to the mix right now. I think we've gone through enough, and but it does make sense to go through the process and have more efficiency. And I do appreciate the fact that you were able to get the AIG consistent with the other agreements, because just having them all have the same language on them and actually having them reviewed by an attorney and know that we don't have additional liability in here helps me to sleep a little bit better at night. So, do you have any other comments on any of them? Do you have a motion to?
So the motion would be to allow the current chair to sign the 4 contracts.
Yeah,
Motion would be
the
to
motion would,
approve
yeah, the
all of
motion, let me do it this way. The motions for American Health Group, for GDK, and for Wisconsin RX would be to approve them all effective on the date shown in the contracts, okay? And to authorize the chair to sign. And for Blue Cross Blue Shield, it would be to retroactively approve Carrie's signature as of July 1 and authorize the chair to execute the remaining portions of the contract.
I think we can do that in two motions. The first one would be the 3 contracts. I'd make a motion that to sign the 3 contracts with Marcia authorized, the chair authorized to sign those contracts.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'm going to make a motion on the Blue Cross Blue Shield contract to approve that and allow Marcia as chair to sign it retroactively.
Well, it would,
Approve Carrie's signature in July.
Approve it, and then
your signature would be approved effective July 18, 2018. And then we would sign it
That
retroactively.
works.
what he said.
That works.
Whatever Aaron said, that's my motion.
So your motion?
For this, for Blue Cross Blue Shield, right, to accept as accept the retroactive signature of Carrie and have Marcia sign it again effective or dated today.
Correct, perfect. I got it.
Second.
Ooh, that was pretty loud.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.2, update on July 1st prescription copay implementation.
Yep. So Madam Chair, this one comes with a check and an apology, and the short version is that Jamie was reviewing all the things that had happened in July and discovered that ECA did not notify CDS of the change in copays. So the trust was charging lower copays than had been authorized. That was due to our error. Okay. So if you look on there, you'll see what we did is had them run a report from the time it should have gone into effect until the time it was changed. And then on the yellow column, they calculated what should have been charged to employees as copays, and then we totaled them. So the dollar amount was $1,839.57. So one, we apologize for our error. Caught it on audit, we wanted to make sure we disclose it. We gave you the method of calculation, and if you accept, we have the check, and I'll just give it to Mike Murray. So they had been corrected now, we found it, cut the damage, and basically we're just making good on our mistake.
And going forward, everything's been corrected and the
They're being
copays
charged
have been
correctly today.
correct?
Yep. As of the date, I can't remember what the date was, as of that date, they were changed correctly.
We have a motion to approve the identified error and accept the check for $1,839.57 from ECA.
I'll make that motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Well, I was going to say thanks, Aaron, for, I mean, it's nice knowing that this is being looked at and not swept under the carpet as it. So I appreciate that, the due diligence you've done. And you should just round it up to like $2,000.
No, I think you should make it exactly to the penny.
For math purposes? No?
Yeah, no,
Amy would not like the exactitude, the lack of exactitude.
no.
Okay, I'll make the motion as it sits.
Okay. I think we already did that.
We didn't vote.
Oh, okay. And did you second Amy? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Tried getting $160.
I know it, but I don't want to die, lose so
Just
much
thinking
sleep
of the
on that. You
trust.
have no idea. I would lose so much
Just
sleep
thinking
on
of the
that.
trust.
I know.
That was like one of those sticky bits inside.
Oh, my
My
goodness.
signature's a big loop. So you thought I circled it, that's actually my signature.
New business. 4.1, approval of meeting minutes for July 19th, August 20th, August 29th, and September 12th of 2018. All of these meeting minutes have been distributed electronically to all of the EBT members over the last several months and requested for the members to review. I know that I had made a couple of corrections and they have been reviewed and corrected, gone back. I know that everyone that I had remembered seeing, and I know that I reviewed these as well and compared them to the ones that we had gotten approved, so I don't see any other reasons to
Make a motion to approve those.
Point of clarification, Madam Chair. You also have executive session minutes that you're approving, and we will collect those because they're not able to. So Storm's going to collect those when you get done.
Right, and I looked at mine as well.
I did too. I make a motion to approve those, the meeting minutes as presented,
And the executive session.
and the executive session as presented.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Those right there. Item 4.2, review of financial report through July 31st, 2018. Mr. Collins?
Okay, so Madam Chair, trustees, this is a fairly quick one. So this is actually our standardized report. It is our first time working with a school district on an individual level. So you'll notice in here, there's a couple of anomalies that might jump in just on deposits. But in essence, the trust is operating in a true sense. We had $120,000 loss first month. That number would have been $74,720. The oddity in there is that the district does have people on different withholding schedules. So some are withholding, I believe, on 9 months, some are on 12. Okay, so you get these kind of weird, especially for the summer months, depending on who's doing it. And then also that the July payment was made in June. So you get some kind of cash flow weirdness. And the way that comes through here is I believe our revenue technically for July, because we had the bigger month in June, was only 17% of forecast. Okay? So really that part's just anomalous. So beyond that, the medical claims are actually running very well. We do anticipate that we'll run, when everything cleans up over the course of the first 6 to 8 months, that revenue should only run about 90%. And that's because we adopted rates, but the funding is about 10% low. And that's at $740,000 or whatever deficit that we projected at the beginning of the year. Okay, so we know that going in. Our assumption is basically $750,000 deficit.
Right.
Beyond that, there's really nothing unusual. You will see some line items in here like actuary, eventually legal, that'll run very high initially because they tend to be heavier at the beginning of the year, but then they drop off and they level out over the course of the year.
But we had already budgeted for those as well, right?
They're all
Because
built in.
that was for the additional legal costs of all of the...
Correct, Madam Chair. And the other one, exactly. And the audit will work that way. If you do an audit and it's billed separately, the actuary services will be very high in actually in the later part of the year. They'll run largely zero, and then they'll do it around March, they'll hit, but they blend out because we annualize them. The PCORI fees on page 3, and it's item 5B, is a really good example. You budget it based on 12 equal months. It pops up in 1 month, so we have a 961% in that 1 month, and then it just blends out over the course of the year.
And for the audience, PCORI,
Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute. It's a federal charge. I can't remember the exact number. I think it's $2.79 per covered belly button one time a year that gets sent to the feds. And the theory on it is that they're going to use that money to research more effective ways to deliver health care.
right, okay.
I'd certainly trust them to do that.
They could give it back to us and we could figure something out.
I will tell you all honesty, and you hesitate to say, because I remember what you're saying, this sounds political, no one's seen anything come out of it yet. We've been paying these fees for 5 years nationally.
Because they're not keeping it in the United States.
So I don't know where it's going. We haven't seen anything yet, so we'll see.
They've been collecting it since the 1900s.
So the reports, I want you to know, this is the format you'll see. What we do here is we do a transmittal memo that walks through section by section. You'll note picture's worth 1,000 words, so we graph stuff to make where it's going, so you can see trend lines and you can see where it's running relative to budget. Okay, so our full expectation is we're going to run high relative to budget. But what I would encourage you to do, in addition to looking at the details, just watch for the directions of the line. because it's not just the peaks and valleys, but we'll also superimpose on there a trend line that averages over the course of time. And that's really what you want to see, is how are the claims trending? You know, are they up, are they down? You know, with an account this size, we expect some volatility.
Right.
Single large claim will throw it. You know, then it should adjust over the coming couple of months. So, happy to answer any questions.
And I think so the anomalies as far as the choice of the employee as to how they're going to be paid the 9 months, that 12-month, you know, however they're going to do that, that is understandable. If there was a July deposit that was made on 6/29, I can see that because that's a fiscal year change. There was one question mark for me, I think, on the, because we didn't receive, and I think it's 2.C1 or I, the trust, we did not receive a bill from the center, the Health and Wellness Center, for the July transactional services, so that's the part. So we get a bill every month for the management fee, which is that $53,000, and then we get a bill for the labs and prescription and supplies and all of that. And we'd gotten a a bill in May, and then there was a credit or something, and it's sort of a back and forth, and there's just been, I mean, I guess it's getting slower and slower and slower.
Yeah, Jamie's working with them. We got an invoice, I think it was in May, it was a credit invoice. So Jamie asked for some detail because we've not seen a credit invoice before. So they then sent the backup, but the backup did not foot to the invoice. So they're going back and forth. Jamie's trying to make sure that that detail aligns with that credit one. There was an indication of an error, but frankly, we don't know what it is. So it's just a matter of going back and forth. So until we can actually get that amount, figure out what it is and reconcile to it, it won't appear. So it won't actually hit the trust until we can get it reconciled.
And I think one of the things that I saw on the May invoice that I saw, and I think part of it with regard to the credit was because we had seen those huge labs for where we should have seen, for example, a $15 lab charge for a vitamin D hydroxy. It was $350, or we saw, lab tests for an annual exam should have been $180. It was $1,800, that kind of a thing. And I think we had gone over that in pretty great detail and given it back to Cerner with a request to go check these things. Hopefully that's what happened, and maybe that's where the credit came from. I guess we'll find out when they tell us. But at some point in time, I guess what I want to make sure is that, number one, we get the credit, and it's going to be applied to something. And if we have a credit balance, that we make sure that we realize that.
And Madam Chair, I have to confess, I have not been working on that one. Jamie is kind of wading through that one, so I can't speak to it authoritatively.
That's fine. But we are getting close to the end of the year, and I do want to make sure that we get everything that we need. And I mean, obviously, emails can go back and forth between here and Kansas City, Missouri, too. So.
And what will happen with these, Madam Chair, is the trustees, there's a distribution list. You'll actually get these monthly. You'll get this memo format. You'll get this. They'll ship out electronically, typically by the third week of the month after. So in other words, if it closes on the 30th, typically by the third week, you would have them in your email boxes.
Right.
And then what will happen is they'll come to the meeting, and you'll approve or ask questions as we do the meetings. You'll actually get them. But we make sure the trustees get them emailed electronically every month.
Right. And I think we have, regarding the Health and Wellness Center, I think we're working on a checklist with them, weren't we?
Correct.
On
Yep. For the shutdown and for the property, who owns what the original, an equipment, a furniture and equipment inventory, to make sure we know who owns what.
Okay.
And what it's, Hal and I were talking a little bit about that before the meeting, and then figuring out what it's worth and what do you do with it.
I mentioned also that the realtor represents the owner. They toured the building yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And they're probably going to begin marketing it.
It's a beautiful building.
Yeah, they're going to market it for at least probably in the next couple of weeks. So there'll be a sign going up, but it'll also identify do not disturb the current tenant or the occupants and stuff. So just want everybody to know that that's probably first part of November. So
did you get a price per square foot?
they don't have that yet, what they're going to put it out as.
Well, it's a prime piece of real estate, that's for sure, on the,
Yep.
in that corner. Beautiful place.
We'll get the hospital vibe.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm certainly not in the market to buy anything like that, but I think if I owned it, I don't know that I would necessarily want to sell it if it was this market, but I guess the landlord or the owner will decide what they want to do with it.
Yeah, I know, and some more information on it, that it'd be difficult to sell, so her preference would be to lease it. But that doesn't really affect us.
Right. Well, God bless her.
We figured that, and probably it would be available probably February 1st, figuring if they're going to close by 12/31. That would give Cerner a full month to transition out of there. That's pretty standard.
And Madam Chair, I forgot before, we actually had that conversation with Cerner to give them a period of time to get their furniture out, because we want to have the services undisrupted all the way
Of
through
course.
December 31st.
Right.
Absolutely.
12/31.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely, great. Okay. Okay.
I need a motion, you will need a motion on that one, Madam Chair.
Just to receive their financial reports?
Yeah, you just approve it, so I can do them.
So a motion to receive and approve the financials?
Finance report through July 31, 2018.
I guess we're doing first and seconds. This is going to be the move of the day here.
You can make the rest of the motions for the meeting.
He wanted to
We'll
keep
get you a little
losing your
paddle.
voice.
Yeah.
Could have a little, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. I really don't know how we started that today, but I guess that's okay.
Yeah.
I think it was a poor thing. I guess maybe that's just to save Amy's voice.
If you put a hand up, just make sure you get the right finger.
Yeah. Could get you a little sign, a little smiley. Item 4.3, discussion and possible action regarding emergency checks and just at the district office.
Okay, so Madam Chair, on this one, there was a practice previously of having pre-signed checks available in a lock that we lock safe in the district office. You'll note, and I'm not sure how much this has gone out, but Mike staff's already destroyed the old ones. They had that Colleen Pankow's signature on. So the question was, how do you want to deal with this going forward? So here's what our suggestion is. I think everybody agrees having pre-signed checks is dangerous.
Right.
Right, because they're, whatever, no reflection on staff, but just having those things around, that's bad news waiting to happen. There's really a couple of ways of handling this. We can at times have expedited checks cut from Gilsbar. The wild card in there is that they have an outside service that prints them. Okay, so having an expedited check can still kind of create problems. What we have done in the past for our clients, and we actually had occasion to do that recently here with the building insurance. Hal gave us an email, turned out the insurance had not been renewed on the building. So I contacted AJS thinking they had it, sent them an email, didn't hear anything back. And I did get an email back saying, we know what you're talking about. And I forgot it had been placed by the prior broker down in Phoenix. So that's what happened. So in that case, what we did is ECA actually wrote the check and mailed it to the building owner, and then we're going to be submitting for reimbursement. So we covered it. We do not have a problem doing that. Obviously, if it gets too big, then we're going to say, sorry, they're going to have to wait a few days while the bills start doing it. But generally speaking, we do, for things like that, where there's an understanding, we have authority, we would go to the chair, we would go to whoever, get authority, say, hey, look, we've got this bill for X, it needs to get paid for whatever reason, we would write the check and then send through, we have a standard process where you send a letter with the backup documentation to the chair authorizing reimbursement and then send it to the TPA. So we do that to make sure that we cannot order ourselves to be reimbursed without the chair of the trust or in the absence we have the vice chair authorizing it. So we're comfortable with that, Mike. I don't know if you want to jump in on anything.
Yeah, that's correct. A couple months ago, we engaged Aaron's group in this very conversation because of what we had on hand at the time. At the time, it was just blank checks because we did destroy the ones that were pre-signed. And we wanted to, since we did transition to Wells Fargo, I just don't like ordering checks for them to sit somewhere because that's an expense to the trust to have blank checks sitting on hand when we use them rarely. So I engaged with Aaron to just ask him, is there a different way, is there a workaround around this? One, to minimize the risk of having checks on hand, and two, just to create it to where it's I think a little bit more clean, if you will, of having our consultant make a payment of some sort to a vendor under your direction as a chair. So that's kind of where, I was surprised to see it on the agenda item, because I was asking at that time, but I think it's great that it's there, because these conversations need to be had in the open for everyone to know that these are established practices now. So I'm uncomfortable having pre-signed checks, even though they're locked in a vault, just because I don't think that's a clean way of doing business. So we'll await your direction on this, and we'll support it.
Yeah, and I think I actually got unintentionally in the mix, because I came in to sign something for Naomi, and we started talking about checks, and I remembered hearing Mr. Stewart previously say something about we had signed checks, and I was like, we shouldn't have any signed checks anywhere. And poor Naomi, I put her on the spot, and I'm like, where are they, and have they been destroyed? And poor thing, she didn't, I don't think you had any information on that. And so I was calling and saying, okay, where are they, and who destroyed them, and who watched it, and this and that and the other. So that's how I ended up on the agenda. But transparency is the name of the game, and that's the name of the day. I mean, that's the word of the day. So,
Speaking of bills, have we reached the point where we'll stop seeing past due bills, like for Frontier and Unisource?
I had a discussion actually with, I'm not sure if it was you or Jamie on that, and if it's okay, I'll talk about that.
I'm smiling, but the answer is probably not. But
Well, we're going to get there, and it's because I don't like that. But to finish the answer or the question about the checks, I am opposed completely to having signed checks. I think that's just a really, it's a poor practice, and I just don't think that we should abide by that at all. I guess my feeling about ECA footing the bill for anything is, I feel a little odd about that, unless it's just absolutely necessary. I don't like.
That should be pretty infrequent.
But it should,
How often does it come up?
It should. I don't know that.
for an account like this, I would get this 2 or 3 times a year would be my guess. And like this one, something was a whoopsie that
Right.
the policy needed to be renewed, basically as a good faith thing for the.
As long as there's a chain, as long as there's a, there's a process, I'm okay with that part. But in answer to your question, my question and comment and concern that I posed to Jamie was, why do we keep seeing this, and what the big, what the problem is? And basically the situation is that when we approve or okay these items, the bill goes to Gilsbar. Gilsbar uses an outside source to pay them, and so they're a week to 2 weeks depending on when they get sent to the outside source, and so it could be 2 weeks behind, and because of when they hit the outside source for being paid, they could then become late. And my answer was, not good enough, fix it.
Yeah.
So that was my request to Jamie to visit with Gilsbar, was there has to be a better answer, a better way to do that, and if not, then we need to revisit that.
Right.
Because that to me is just not acceptable.
Madam Chair, I think it's going to go away when the clinic goes, because it's the clinic bills, it's the Frontier, those types of bills that are going through. But you're right, I mean, that's, the other vendors, I don't think really, the medical vendors, it doesn't seem to be an issue.
Yeah, I don't think I saw any.
But I think the fact they come in here regularly, and you're right, because I believe they send their files on 2 different days a week. So depending where you hit that, then when they do their check run, and then the mail, I think that's the combination.
Well, and the other part of it is we had no guarantee of when the clinic was sending them to us. So we had no guarantee of if the bill was received by them today, that because of them, I mean, they could have 20 people coming in because they were sick, and maybe we didn't get them on time. And so everything could get pushed back another 2 weeks, whatever. So, and then, I mean, so there was this process, and I think you're right, I think it'll all get, figured out once But
Okay.
having them just, having an outside vendor doing that,
Well, it just seems like it's been going on for years.
Forever.
Yeah.
it has been since day one.
Since I've seen the bills, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So going back to this, Madam Chair, what is your preference on the emergency checks? We know they've already been destroyed, so we're not going to recreate that process of having blanks. Are you comfortable with us with the understanding that we're happy to do it? If we can't do it, if it's too big, we'll just tell you we can't. We'll have to work something out with Gilsbar. But our process would be cover letter, documentation, we call first, here's what we got. Cover letter, documentation, what the invoice was, ECA check number, and then submit it to the chairperson for signature to authorize approval.
So do we currently have checks for Wells Fargo on site?
We do not,
Okay.
no.
And I don't believe that we need them. Do you?
No.
I don't see any reason to have those. And ECA feels comfortable stepping up in an emergency situation as long as it's properly documented.
There will always be receipts. And we don't charge anything, we don't add, there's no gross up fee or anything, it's 100% pass through. So you get whatever the invoice is, we pay it, then you get exactly that amount back.
Okay. Do you have any opinion about that, or?
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
If you're willing to do that, we appreciate it, and I have no objection to it. So we would just need a motion to give permission to ECA to,
Want me to frame it?
sure,
Okay, so I would say, Madam Chair, a suggested motion is to direct business staff that we are not going to have pre-signed checks or ordering checks from Wells Fargo, item 1. 2, for those infrequent occasions where an expense needs to be paid immediately, subject to ECA's ability to do so, ECA will cut a check and then seek reimbursement on the written authorization in that exact amount from the chair, authorized by the chair.
I think that's a good motion. Would you like to? Do we have a motion? Oh,
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. You're going to have to gargle when you go home. Item 4.4, presentation of 2018 clinic report, which I don't think we're going to be doing.
Table that.
We're gonna-
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would basically take it as a distribution item, no action. We did provide Cerner with notice of the meeting, and with the change in times, they are not able to attend to present it. So we'll figure out whether or not we do a presentation either at a later meeting or after the first of the year.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
So, yeah, I'll make a motion, we table that item.
Point of order, you cannot table a motion, you can postpone, but you cannot table.
All right, what John said.
So you can make a motion to postpone
I'll make a motion to postpone the Cerner
presentation.
presentation on the clinic report.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Robert John Maston.
Robert's rules, everybody
Okay.
should have a copy.
Yep.
Item 4.5, administrative update.
Hey, Madam Chair, this is just an information item. 3 items. 1, as you are aware, we've notified Gilsbar and CVS of the benefit changes approved by the board. We're working with district staff to do a mid-year open enrollment. This is required by statute due to the changes that are coming in effective in January. And we're also working with district on any kind of employee education meetings that we need to do to kind of get the word out. So we'll be working with the district staff on that. Secondly, the teledoc implementation, which will be effective in January, is moving along. The agreement is signed. Gilsbar and teledoc are working on the eligibility fee issue. No problems on any of that so far. And then again, we'll be working on information to be distributed to staff on how. We'll include that in orientation meetings, and we'll probably work with, I expect that we'll work with teledoc on some simple things that we've done with other places, marketing strategies, like if you go in and register and load all your data, you can put into an eligibility drawing for one of those ear thermometers.
Yeah.
Things like that, just to kind of encourage people
I think
to go
that's
in
great.
and load their stuff. So all that's moving apace. And then we're working with Mike Shunning on the IBNP, incurred but not paid calculation. This is one that we don't see has been done, but long story short, it goes back with the accrual concept. And it's that you have to post, after the close of each year, you have to post the liabilities of the trust. There's 2 components. One is an estimate of the claims that have been incurred but not paid. So it's about 90% of it, 95% of it. And then there's an administrative expense component, which is basically contingent on ever closing the trust down. And it recognizes you'll have to have an actuary sign off, you'll have to have an auditor sign off, the TPA will have to continue to run out claims for, I think it's 18 months. So we build in essentially for the wind up the operations of the trust. Still working on that, it'll be done as of July 1st. And then typically by now, frankly, what you'll see in future years, it'll typically be done by August, early September, a little bit later in the first year.
I personally would be glad to have that because I think it's been, for me, it's been sorely missed. And it's because it's sort of a thermometer, a gauge of things that you can measure.
Well, knock wood, actually everything's moving normally right now. I hesitate to say that, but you never know. You kind of like screw it up.
You don't know until you don't know.
Okay.
So,
That's all we have, Madam Chair.
and that doesn't really require any kind of. Okay. I think, do we have any questions or comments from the audience at all, or?
Do we have an idea when the open enrollment is going to begin?
I think you're working on some dates, aren't you?
We are. I'll put out an everyone email. We're looking at in November because they need the information by end of November, correct?
Right, and you guys, yep, for yours, for any switches, for
Correct.
payroll.
So we're going to do it as we have in years past. It'll be basically paper, pencil, paper, pen. And then our department will manually upload everything to where it needs to go. And then in May, we'll do a regular open enrollment, and that'll be done via Visions through the computer system. But for this one, since it won't affect the masses, it'll affect only those who actually want to make changes at this particular time during this open enrollment. We're expecting it to be fairly few in numbers.
But everyone will be given the notice, and
Correct.
then, so if someone is not interested in participating in the open enrollment, you'll get a decline from them, something, an email,
Don't
something?
need to, I just make it available, Madam Chair.
Okay.
So if they're happy with the plan, they want to continue, they do
They
nothing?
do nothing.
It's the way it's characterized as a passive open enrollment, so you only change if you want to make a change. I would echo Mike, I'd be surprised if we had 5% shift. Because more people coming on, the benefits are improving. So that if I was expecting some, because co-pays and whatnot, or deductibles, excuse me, lowering, whatever, my expectation, if anything, we have people come on versus leave.
Right. I guess my only concern would just be to make sure that that message goes out more frequently than less, because I can hear that one or two people going, I was too busy to check my emails, I didn't see it, I really wanted to change, whatever, and I just want everyone to get every opportunity to make any changes.
I agree with you, like when you said a check off of yes or no, because I think that's really important, because I don't know if everybody's going to be reading that email. And so I think what you said is valid, that we need to, and we don't have an
We can look into doing that, and
Okay.
just having the AAs like they do at the beginning of the year
Okay, that'd be
anyways, instead of
great.
gathering all the papers. Just
I would
make sure they have
Yes.
something from everyone.
I would prefer that, only because it's I got your
Oh.
check or your signature or something, just because.
Yeah,
Since we don't
it's
have
easy
a
enough.
committee anymore, like that would be a committee member's responsibility, and since we don't have a committee anymore.
Well, I don't even know that I would want to trust it to anybody but me.
Right. No, I'm just saying as far as the
If
yes
that-
no.
If it won't cause a lot of problems, I just think it would be
Yeah, we can, that's not an issue at all.
okay. Thank you. I think that would be a smart thing to do.
Has there been anything, and I've not seen it, that has gone out, sorry, has there been anything that's gone out that was basically just, I mean, for those of us that were present, we saw the slides and we saw the shift in the deductibles and the very specific items that changed in January?
That will go out as part of the open enrollment
Okay.
packet.
I just was hoping that that'll be very reader-friendly and not cause confusion. I'll be happy to explain it many times, but.
We'll work with Aaron's group, maybe we can work it out to where we can have as few pages as possible so that it's easy for people to read.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of information that's gone out, which that has been wonderful. But at the same time, I know that I've had several people come up to me this week and say, okay, so which one is it? You know, wanting clarification of what it's actually.
Which one is it, meaning which plan is it?
Meaning which, what are the, because we had some forecasting of what the co-pays and what the deductibles and all that would be.
So we just need a one-pager.
So just making it clear, this is what it is.
And I did send an email of bullet points to every principal that they were allowed to push out. I don't know if every principal did push it out, but it did have exactly what our plan we chose was.
So in responding to Madam Chair, I think it would be ideal if we could have that maybe on the front, and then on the reverse side, have that be whether or not you're interested in making changes. So that way they have it in front of them, they can sign it on the back, whether yes, they want to participate in open enrollment, or no, they're not interested, sign it, and that way it's right there, easy for us to keep on file.
We do those a lot.
That's right.
And I would concur that the forecast for July go wonderfully heading the right direction. Leave that forecast part off because that just confused them. They didn't know which started when.
Also
No,
be careful
we'll just-
with the wording. If you put, yes, I want to participate in open enrollment, people are going to see that and say, yes, I want the plan, and check it, I think.
Yep, I was thinking the same thing. I can see a lot of people thinking
We'll
that.
make sure it's carefully worded.
Right.
If they're checking yes, they're electing to make changes as far as adding somebody or removing somebody from the plan.
So maybe not even yes or no, just I want to make changes or I'm happy with the
Yes.
plan.
Or I'm going to keep things
Yeah.
as it's.
Right, keep it simple.
Yeah, because really the choices are I'm either going to add or I'm going to drop the plan.
Right.
Only one in Jan.
If I want to make changes or I don't want to make changes.
Right.
And if I want to make changes, then they need to know about when the meetings are.
We're going to do that, Madam Chair. I'd like to say we're going to figure out something foolproof. We'll work something out.
There's no such thing. Okay. And then we'll do a one-page or, yeah, one-page thing and it'll come from. Anything else? Any other questions?
Motion to adjourn.
Wait a second.
No.
I do want to let you know this will be my last meeting. I
Aw.
won't
I left your gift at home.
be. Sorry.
We have his address. You can drop it off.
The gift is not having to attend another one.
Oh, wait a minute. They got better.
And I would like to thank
Terrible thing to
Marcia
say.
for sort of leading the way on changing this whole thing with the EBT. You know, I just want to let you know that, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Because when I came in, all the confusion and the lack of transparency and all that, through your efforts and some other people, we're where we are today, and I think it'll benefit the whole district and all that. So I really appreciate that, and I want to let you know.
Thank you. Appreciate
I
it.
think I have before, but I wanted to say it again.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Well, you're welcome to come back anytime, but if I was you, I wouldn't.
You can sit out there.
But I will say one thing. There's been a noticeable improvement. They're not marathons, so that's a credit to you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Now you can make it.
I rescind my motion. I'll let Amy. We can sit here till you say something.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And you two don't disappear. See you.
You know, Aaron, it's.
Good night.
You're